Hey everyone. In today's video, I wanted to talk about what I did on my trip back in 2023. I took a few days and went over from Oahu to the Big Island of Hawaii, also known as Kona. And I went to Hilo, which was the main city there. And that's basically going to be this video. I'm talking about my trip there. It was only a few days long. It wasn't very long. We went from Oahu first over to the Big Island. So we had already been on Oahu and Maui for the last week and a half, 2 weeks, something like that. So we had been here for a while already. But we wanted to go see what the Big Island was like. Even though my dad grew up on Oahu, he had never been to the Big Island himself. He was also kind of playing with the idea of potentially retiring there in the future. And I had never been to the Big Island either, even though I was born in Hawaii. And so I wanted to go try seeing what it was like and the differences between, Oahu's Honolulu, LA on an island type of thing, versus kind of a more laid back, maybe less developed, bigger island. And when I say bigger, I mean much bigger. They don't call it the Big Island for nothing. It was a lot larger than I expected in terms of just the distance and how long it took to get everywhere that we went. It really didn't feel like an island. I could see if you lived on Oahu getting that island fever, feeling like you had explored everything that there is to see, and wanting to go to the mainland where there's just so much more to see and do. Not that there's not a lot to see on Oahu, but it's an island after all, and you can drive around the entire thing within a day, and you've seen basically everything after you've been there for a few years, or even for a week just visiting. You can see the majority of the stuff that there is to see, touristy at least. So the Big Island, you could still drive around it, and it is small enough to still be conquered, so to speak, but it is a lot bigger. Just the drive time to get from point A to point B, you definitely feel like you're in the car more often. So to preface that, we went to the Big Island to go see kind of what it was like. And coincidentally, my dad's friend, who he had known since high school, living on Oahu, stayed on Oahu his entire life and decided to retire on the Big Island, just like my dad was thinking of doing. And so my friend, or my dad's friend, built a kind of a house, or bought a house, I should say, on Lava Zone 2, which I guess is relatively safe given where the lava zones are. I personally wouldn't want to build anything on anything labeled a lava zone, but I guess the last flow to that lava zone 2 area had been a really long time. And by the time I'd seen it, it showed. It was very green, no lava really there. Just the potential for it to eventually wipe out everything if, the lava decided to go that way one day. So, what did we do on that trip? We were only there for like 2 or 3 days, so it wasn't a huge length of time, but it was kind of enough for us to see what we wanted to see there. My dad just wanted to get a feel for the place. So we arrived at the airport. We went into the main city, which is kind of still not that big, and then we got a rent-a-car off Turo, and we basically just drove to his friend's house, Greg's house, and we just saw it. It took us quite a while, so we were driving, and when you drive, again, it's just these super long streets, highways to nowhere, it feels like, and then they'll have these pullouts where you can just kind of go, and you're just like, if there wasn't a Google Maps, you'd be like, what is down there? Because the paved roads end, and they go into like a cobblestone, just pebbles basically, and then they break up into just dirt. And so by the time we got to Greg's house, deep into the boonies basically, it's just you're driving down roads that are barely roads at all, and you pull in. Everyone's got this gate, and you just he had his gate, and it's just like a metal gate that blocks off his property. So you think it's kind of nice, maybe hidden away in the back, but you go in there, and it's really just, a plot of land with a house built on it. It's basically a really long driveway, and then it gets to your house. And your house is probably, I don't know, 1,000 square feet, maybe 1,200 square feet, something like that. My apartment realistically is bigger than the house that he had. Obviously, he's got land around it, not a ton, but maybe like an acre in total. So I think his property with the driveway is probably like 2-3 acres, something like that. So yeah, that's basically it. Yo, it's recording my video for the Big Island. So by the time we got to Greg's house, we explored the place. There wasn't a whole lot to explore. It was basically just a carport underneath, and then he kind of had like a little garage area, but it wasn't, it was like a little workbench underneath the house type of thing. It wasn't enough, barely enough to stand in. It was kind of like a crawl space almost. And that's kind of where he was building some stuff. He put some tarp over this carport area, and it was basically just like a 2-bedroom, if you even want to call it that. It was really a 1-bedroom but you know what? I don't even think it was a 1-bedroom, because he had half of it was like an enclosed patio, and then he had a room that maybe you would consider the room, but basically the laundry was in there. So you had like a washer and dryer. That's where I slept, on a mattress next to the washer and dryer. And then there was like a bathroom, and his bed was actually in the living room. So it was kind of like a studio, basically, with a couple of different, build outs. And then the kitchen was in the living room, basically. So I guess it was more like a studio with kind of its own separate room as the laundry room, but the laundry room was pretty big. So that's that. He had a water catcher in the back that just caught rainwater. So that's kind of how he did that. He had a little garden in the back, and he's retired, so he wasn't doing a whole lot in terms of work. Just kind of fixing up the place. You could see, hi Shippy, hi. You could see where he's kind of like chopping some wood, because the acreage is actually relatively large, the property, but it's just overgrown with so much stuff that the actual livable space, without him clearing some stuff out, isn't that much. And he doesn't have a lot of money to do that, so it's going to be a slow process, that sweat equity. So that's essentially his house. We slept there apparently every night, and this is something they didn't tell me until like an hour before it started getting dark, is I guess Hawaii, or the Big Island, has these frogs. And if you've ever been there, these frogs are so loud, and they croak at night, only at night. And so they don't stop all night. And so when you're going to sleep, thank God I had some earplugs in, because I was planning on visiting hostels in Japan and stuff. So I kind of prepared to sleep with other people. But oh my God, these frogs were just like so loud. I felt like there was a few right outside our window, and they just, it was crazy. They basically just all night. It didn't stop until the early morning, and then we got up, and apparently they stopped like right as we got up. So think of it like crickets. They don't chirp when you're around them, right looking at them, but they're there, and they're all night. But they're much louder than crickets. So we did that the whole 2 nights we were there. They didn't stop. So anyway, the first morning, essentially, we left and we went to go see the volcano. So that was really cool. My dad and I drove up in our rent-a-car, and we went to go to this, basically a national park, and we parked there. I got some stickers, which I unfortunately left in the rent-a-car. I was really sad about that, because I was planning on decorating my laptop with a bunch of stickers, and I did throughout the trip. But I left the volcano state park stickers in the rent-a-car. We ended up hiking basically all along the ridge of the volcano, so you couldn't see lava, but apparently it had erupted pretty recently, and an entire other lava zone got taken out. And so we saw it was all black, right? And so we kind of walked along these pits, and we saw sulfur vents. We walked through the sulfur vent area, and then we got to the actual volcano, and it's so big. The actual volcanic part of it is just enormous. So you just look out, it's just this vast valley of just black. There's nothing there. You can't see into the volcano, like I couldn't see any lava, but it was just a bunch of black, and it just looks like a wasteland, and it was kind of cool. So we saw that, we hiked around. I just remember these like really pointy red flowers, and I don't know the name of them, but that's kind of what sticks in my head. There were a bunch of these pointy red flowers that I guess like volcanic ash, because there were a lot of them all over the place. So that was kind of the volcano trip, and then we wanted to go see some other waterfalls. Now, we had seen quite a few waterfalls. If you remember, in Maui, we went to the PPY Trail. There were waterfalls all throughout the road to Hana that we stopped and looked at. We went to just, tons of waterfalls on Maui and even a couple on Oahu. But we wanted to go see what the Big Island had to offer. And the first one we went to, I forgot the name of it. I think it was called Wakaka Falls, or Akaka Falls, pretty sure. And Akaka Falls, it was okay. We went down there and we saw like 3 of them, or 2 of them. And it was like a little hike that you could go down the ramp, and it was much more kind of Jurassic Parky, touristy than I thought it would be. There's basically a ramp you've got to follow, and you just kind of make your way down there, and you can see one. And then you make your way down, and you can see another. And you make your way down, and you see the third one. And then, you go back up and you leave. And it was really that simple. It wasn't spectacular by any means. We just saw it and left. Then we went to Rainbow Falls. And Rainbow Falls was apparently just this, like, big, fat waterfall that I really didn't expect too much out of. It's not necessarily tall in any way, shape, or form. And it just kind of looked like a bucket of water being poured out. It was just so big and not necessarily very majestic looking. But when I got there, I was surprised. That was probably the coolest waterfall that I had seen. It was really large, and it looked really cool when up in person. So I was super happy that we stopped there. We had some road rage there when we were trying to pull in the parking lot. I guess everything was really packed, and so like as we're waiting there, and like somebody backs out, and then as we're trying to pull up, somebody with their little family just runs in there and snags the spot. It's like, really, dude, you're gonna be a dick? But yes, they were gonna be a dick. So we, I told him, I'm like, hey man, we're waiting, and he's like, oh, you're waiting for this spot? It's playing dumb. I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, okay. And so he's like, come on, kids, and trying to like guilt trip us, gets everybody back in the car, and then pulls out of the spot. I'm like, yeah, dude, like, wait your fucking turn. So anyway, so that's basically what we did the first day. We wanted to go see the falls and the volcano. So that was it. We had dinner with Greg, my dad's friend, and called it a night. So that was day 1. And then on day 2, we decided to drive around the entire island, or at least a majority of it. And we wanted to go see the most southern part of the United States, which is, apparently it's called a green sand beach. So we drove all down there. It was a pretty long trip. We drove all the way down to the most southern tip of the United States, which is the bottom of the Big Island of Oahu, of the Big Island. And we saw that, took some pictures. It was pretty cool. Nice, obviously nice ocean blue. The green sand beach, when we parked there, we walked down and I saw some grass mixed in with the sand, and I was very unimpressed. I'm like, oh, this is what they mean by green sand beach? It's just like a grassy, sandy beach. This isn't very, cool looking, and definitely not worth the drive by itself. It was nice to be there, and it was hot and kind of out in the outskirts, but just, if I had known that that's what it was going to look like, I wouldn't have done it. Then we're making our way out to go to this black sand beach, and I'm doing some more research on the green sand beach, and apparently we had to hike a few miles in the I think on the left along the coast, I guess, and we would have eventually reached a real green sand. A green sand, it's not like a highlighter green or anything crazy. Apparently it's like a mossy green, so still not that big of a deal. I was fine not going to it and seeing it up in person. They wanted like $20 and they would drive you out there. They had a bunch of locals with pickup trucks just like offering rides out there. But I was totally fine not seeing that. And then we drove to on the southern tip. I forgot to mention there were all these monuments as well. These like sculptures and little just doodads of people writing stuff, and looked really Hawaiian. But all the Hawaiian monuments are all like secede from the U.S., foreigners not welcome, you're ruining our land, very anti-American, anti-tourist, and I felt sad that people think like that, and I was asking somebody the other day, a friend of mine, I'm just like, I wonder what would have happened if we didn't take the U.S. Like, we probably wouldn't be able to do it now, like invading another country. That's crazy. Like, imagine we invaded Fiji or something, or just to take their territory. And I think my dad was the one that asked me, and he said, if we didn't do it when we did it, somebody else would have done it. They wouldn't have been a lasting nation with with the resources that they had. And I don't know how much of that is true, how much of that is just justification for, doing what we did. But yeah, I mean, it might be a Japan colony or territory, or who knows by now, who knows. But anyway, so I feel like being a part of the U.S. does offer a lot of benefits, and having the trade relations and stuff with the mainland, it could definitely be seen as a positive, even if some of the culture got destroyed. And yeah. So anyway, next part, we kind of drove around the other part of the island where more touristy stuff, like I guess these are where some of the resorts are. And when we were driving through, it was really cool to see. There was a bunch of cool horizon views. Like, you could see the sun right on the horizon, and you're just driving right down the coast. It almost kind of looked like California to a degree. But then you would come out to these places where it's just a bunch of pasture, and you can see all these all like the cattle and everything, and it's all horse, like ranch land. And I guess there's like a few families that own a lot of land out there on the Big Island, and it was really cool looking. Let's see. That was basically the entire trip. We went to the black sand beach. I took a picture in front of the Aloha sign there, and just felt the black sand in my hand. I just wanted to see what that felt like. That was the first time me ever seeing it. I know they had a black sand areas on Maui, but I didn't get the chance to look at those or view those, or even go there. So seeing it in person was definitely cool. We were only there for about 20 minutes. It was just something I wanted to experience, and it really didn't feel like anything different than white sand beach. It was just black sand, and it looked cool, just crushed up lava rock. So that's basically the entirety of the trip. There's not a whole lot much more to tell. When we left on the next day, we got to the airport about an hour and a half earlier than the hour that they want us there early. So we were just sitting there at the airport and waiting for the rent-a-car guy to come pick up his car from Turo. So that was kind of a waste of time. And then when he finally did, we got to the airport, and our flight was delayed like 4 hours. So we kind of wasted that entire day just sitting there, and we didn't get back to Oahu until 4 or 5 p.m. We had some dinner and called it a night. So that was basically the entirety of my Big Island trip. Thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments below, and I'll elaborate on anything here. But that's essentially my 2.5 day trip on the Big Island, and we did everything that I really wanted to do. We saw what it was like for my dad wanting to retire there, and he has mixed feelings about it now. He thinks it might be a good idea sometimes, but then doesn't at the same time. In my opinion, I feel like if he wants to retire in a place like that, he could do so for a lot cheaper in the Philippines, and basically achieve the same result of being on the outskirts and living, self-sufficient, and being away from the majority of people and all that. If he wants to do that type of lifestyle, he could do that in Dumaguete or something like that, in Philippines, and be totally fine. So, and live for a lot cheaper. So anyway, thanks for watching, and the next video will be kind of part 2 of my Oahu trip. When I got back to Oahu, I did a lot more hiking, and I did a lot of it solo because my dad didn't want to do as much as I did. So I did some more hiking, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So stay tuned until next video, and then after that, I flew to Japan. All right, till next time, guys. Bye bye.